Hi everyone, this is Coral. I'm going to be doing my presentation on squash bees. So first of all, you might ask, what exactly is a squash bee? The name squash bee could refer to any of 20 different species of bees within two different genera, Peponapis and Xenoglossa. Squash bees are all native to the Americas. For our OSU fact sheet describes squash bees as slightly larger and more rapid in flight than honeybees. Specifically, average length ranges from 11 to 14 millimeters, and average breadth of abdomen ranges from 4 to 5.5 millimeters. Their heads and thoraxes black with yellowish to tan hairs, and their abdomens are black with hairy tan bands. Unlike honeybees, squash bees are solitary bees. The female squash bees will each rear brood in ground nests they build themselves near cucurbita flowers. You also might ask, what specifically do squash bees forage on? Squash bees are forage specialists on cucurbita species, including squashes, pumpkins, and gourds. Only female squash bees forage on pollen, but they do exhibit oligolecty, which is pollen specialization, making them solely reliant on pollen from cucurbita flowers for their diets, as well as the diets of their broods. Both male and female squash bees prefer to forage on nectar from cucurbita flowers. This is a picture of a male squash bee in a cucurbita flower of some sort. Male squash bees, as well as unmated female squash bees, sleep in cucurbita flowers from the time they wilt in the afternoon until the time they reopen just before sunrise. Also, if a male squash bee is trying to mate with a female squash bee, he'll wait for her to come find him in a cucurbita flower. So there are a number of reasons why research indicates that squash bees are more efficient than pollinators of cucurbita species than honeybees, a few of which outlined here I will go over in more detail. First of all, as you all know, honeybees are polytropic, meaning they can easily be distracted by other better-looking, better-smelling flowers. In fact, one article I read described honeybees as having a lack of affinity to cucurbita flowers in general. Squash bees, on the other hand, are deeply involved with their cucurbita flowers. Remember, females exhibit pollen specialization on cucurbita flowers, and both male and female squash bees prefer to forage on cucurbita nectar. Females build their ground nests near cucurbita flowers, and then you've got male squash bees and unfertilized female squash bees sleeping in cucurbita flowers, as well as mating going on in cucurbita flowers. Second of all, squash bees, for a number of reasons, some of which I guess I could have been included in the last slide or the following slide, are better adapted evolutionarily than honeybees or other pollinators to pollinate cucurbita flowers. As you know, with honeybees, drones don't pollinate at all, but with squash bees, both males and females do the pollinating. Also, squash bees have more spaced out hairs to trap the larger pollen grains of cucurbita flowers. One study found that squash bees remove and deposit 4 times as much pollen as and make significantly more floral visits to cucurbita flowers than honeybees. The same study also found that a single female squash bee can remove 3 times the pollen from a single cucurbita flower as a female honeybee. And finally, squash bees are early morning risers. They begin pollinating before the sun rises when cucurbita flowers first begin to open. This is a half hour to an hour before other bees begin foraging. Squash bees are so effective at pollen removal that they really reduce the amount of pollen left for other bees by the time they start foraging. So I guess what I'm getting at here is that native squash bees are easy and free, and a lot of research indicates that it isn't necessary for growers of cucurbita crops to employ managed honeybee colonies for pollination, which is important because a lot of farmers may not be aware yet of the role of squash bees in cucurbita pollination, as they can be easily confused with honeybees. These are my references, and that's all. Thank you.